Hey everyone, welcome back to the Craft Parenting Podcast, the podcast about two Cincinnati craft beer lovers with a parenting problem. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Joe Ludwig, and Caroline is not with us. Instead, I have Chris Paquette, a local craft beer connoisseur.
Connoisseur, I think that's the right word.
Yeah. And,
Aficionado.
and dad.
Yes.
So I thought it was appropriate. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I'm so excited that we finally got to make this happen, by the way. Because there are very few podcasts that I relate to as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you guys deal with the same parenting struggles that I do.
Yeah, we have 2 kids, and you and your wife have 2 kids. Different ages, of course. But I'm sure if you listen, you have some flashbacks, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes. Yours are, they're closer together than mine.
Yeah, they're 18 months apart.
Yeah.
My oldest is going to turn 3 in September.
Oh, my gosh.
And my youngest is 17 months.
Oh, my gosh. No, we're 9 and 3. We're at the halfway pole with the big one, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's going to be 10 in March.
Yeah.
In which case, she can start looking for work. Everywhere we go to Kings Island, or we go to Skyline, or we'll go to one of the other breweries, or she's like, I should work here when I get older. I'm like, you need to figure out, like, you can't work at all these places. Or maybe she can. I don't know.
Maybe.
Job market the way it is now, I bet she could work at all those places.
Caroline's dad had a computer store, and she was on a commercial when she was little.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do we have copy?
We do.
Excellent.
Yeah. Her big line was, buy a computer from my daddy.
Oh, perfect.
I know.
I think I've seen that video now that you guys have shared that before. Or maybe not.
I don't think we've shared it publicly.
I think it's time to put it out there. I think it's time to take the leap, dive in, both feet.
We'll have to get approval from
I think we
Caroline.
just go right around Caroline on this one.
Yeah, I have to remember where it is. I think it's on a DVD.
Perfect.
So that's good.
It's easy enough to get. It's digitized.
Yeah, so we're just going to have a great conversation. No real agenda. Let's just talk about, dad life and beer. And I'm sure we have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
So
for sure.
Let's go ahead and get started with that. But before we do that, I should mention that we are recording live on location at BC's Bottle Lodge in Montgomery.
Get here while you can.
Yeah, I was just perusing through Facebook, and unfortunately they are closing this location, but they are opening a brewery in Mason.
It's a short-term loss for a long-term gain is the way I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, and then they have a second location in Liberty.
That's very close to my house.
Also,
It's actually much more convenient for me, although I do work closer to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are, as I said, we are at BC's Bottle Lodge in Montgomery. Great place. They have tons of taps. I'm sure the Liberty location is similar.
It has the same setup.
Very
similar, yeah.
I've never been, but they have a great to-go beer selection too, because that's their thing. It's a bottle lodge.
Yep.
But for a limited time, because as we said, they are going to be opening up a brewery. So we both have drinks.
Yes.
What are we both drinking?
We're both drinking the fabulous West Side Brewing Oktoberfest.
It is so good.
It's so good.
It's my first Oktoberfest of this year.
Is it really?
Well, from the fresh batches.
Sure.
I'm sure I've had like canned.
I'm trying to think of which ones I've had. I had, so we just recorded an episode of Shift Beers, and we had High Grain and Third Eye.
Okay.
Which were both tremendous. And then we had...
Saw Third Eye had a pretzel beer.
Do they? I didn't see that.
I think they just released it in June.
And then I had at the house, I had Oktoberfest.
Oh, that's a good one. I loved Oktoberfest.
And then what did I have? I had one yesterday somewhere too. I can't remember where or what. That's all right though.
That's okay.
It's all right.
We are drinking Oktoberfest. I'm sure we'll have at least one more.
Yeah, I'm almost done with this one. It's gone down really smooth.
Okay. Do you want to take a break?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
All right, so this is the part of the program where usually Caroline tells us what is bugging her in children's TV.
Sure.
Because as a parent, you probably are aware of this. Kids' TV is not very logical. It's kind of annoying.
Yes.
It has these quirks to it that, as an adult can kind of bug you.
Yes.
Do you want to take Caroline's place this week?
I have my issues with children's TV aren't so much with the content because we're pretty good at we try not to over police obviously what the kids watch, but we also we monitor what the kids watch. My issue with children's TV is my kids.
Okay.
Well, one, they're far apart. They're 6 months apart or 6 years apart in age.
Yeah.
So what one likes, the other one maybe is not into. But when they do settle on something, my kids are streaky, right? Well, they will lock. Right now, I can't if the TV's on in my house, which it's only on, I don't know, an hour a day usually. Like my wife and I will watch something after the kids go to bed, and then they'll watch something before they go to bed. But right now, it is Wild Kratts, and it is Wild Kratts, and it's Wild Kratts, and it's Wild Kratts. So much so that we've legitimately looped the series like twice.
We've done that with Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Right? And then, so they'll get in that. And before that, it was Odd Squad, which is maybe one of my favorite ones because I think it's so ridiculously silly. But then before that, it was, I can't even remember. But they get into these, and they do it with their breakfast too, where my 9-year-old, Evie will just eat waffles for breakfast every day for 6 months. So all right, cool. We're going to start buying waffles at Costco. And then the moment we do,
without fail,
Oreo cereal, boom, is the new thing, and that's all she'll eat. She's like, waffles, gross. Who would eat waffles? I'm like, I am gonna choke you out. So I think that's my issue so much with children's TV is that my kids will settle into something, and that's all they'll consume. So now it's all animals and wildlife, but before that it was all Odd Squad, which is all math problems and problem solving. But and not that they're bad things; these are great things for them to be learning about.
Right.
But a little variety for us, for my sake, would be super nice, right? If we could mix in a Doc McStuffins or a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or anything else for 1 night a week, I would be thrilled.
Yeah, Lily goes through stages and phases too. For a while, it was Scooby-Doo, old school Scooby-Doo.
Really? The 2D, wow.
From the 60s.
Yeah. Scrappy-Doo? Not then.
No.
Yeah, that's pre-Scrappy.
Yeah, it is pretty scrappy. Old school, even before the hour-long specials with all the 70s characters Batman and Robin.
With right, those crossovers, those Hanna-Barbera crossovers were so good.
Batman and Robin and the Three Stooges and.
I forgot those existed. I forgot.
I loved all of that.
Yeah.
It was on Cartoon Network when I was a kid, and I love that she loves those.
Yeah.
But Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Sesame Street, and now it's Barney.
Barney.
I know.
Barney has not made an appearance in our house, nor have the
It's
Teletubbies.
my parents' fault. I know.
Banned. Never watching the kids again.
No, they have to. They are my childcare.
Right.
Barney. I know. And I found some old school Barneys because the new ones are kind of weird.
The old ones are kind of weird. What are the new ones? What was the little yellow Triceratops? His friend. What was her name?
There's BJ, and there's Baby Bop.
Baby Bop.
Baby Bop's green.
Baby Bop's green. Okay.
And BJ's is yellow.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, these are shows that I watched when I was their age.
Right.
I think it's hilarious, and I still remember. I talk about this in previous episodes, but my sister is 10 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar to your kid's situation, I guess, but I'm a little older than your oldest. But we went to Myrtle Beach one year, and we had the family van. We didn't have the fancy TVs. My parents had a 24-inch TV that they had on their nightstand in their room. They put it in between the driver and the passenger. They bought a cigarette adapter so they could
power
plug
converter.
it in. Yeah, and they only brought one Barney tape. My sister was 1 year old, and we drove to Myrtle Beach.
That's so it's 11 and a half hours or 12 hours.
Yeah, we would leave at 4, so it wasn't too bad. We would get there at 5.
Yeah.
My sister was 1. She's never seen a Barney in her life except for that trip, and she loved it. But my mom only brought one tape of Barney.
And over.
Yeah, we watched it over and over. And when she would nap, my mom brought videos for us. I think we watched Jaws.
Oh, nice.
Which I don't think that's a good movie to show your kids as you're going to the beach.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Like, hey, watch this terrible tragedy that happens on the ocean, even though it's fiction, and then get in the water. I don't know why you kids don't want to swim.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't connect the two for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess I was old enough to realize that it was fiction or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it was just to Sam Barney, and I think I found it on YouTube, and I played it for Lily, and they love it.
Wow.
And I remember watching that with my little sister or whatever. I would just tune it out.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I had my Walkman or whatever.
Sure.
Or my Game Boy Color. I would just play Pokemon or whatever.
Yeah. Trying to think as a kid, I remember watching, I had like 2 what felt like infinitely long VHS tapes of like Looney Tunes.
Oh man.
Shorts, right? Like the 4-minute long or 8-minute long, like Looney Tunes, like Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, like Yosemite Sam, like Looney Tunes, like the original ones. And I would watch those over and over and over again growing up. Like I remember sitting in my grandma lived with us in our house, and I would sit in her room because she had a VCR, and I would watch those till forever.
Yeah.
Like after school or even when I wasn't in school. And then I just remember transitioning right to Nicktoons, like the old ones, the
Ren and
Stimpy,
Rugrats.
and the Rugrats and Doug and
yeah.
God, what else was on that?
They ruined Doug.
They ruined Doug.
I know.
They ruined Doug. Still like Patty Mayonnaise though. Just thinking back, and then I don't remember what after that. After that, I kind of grew out of television, and I was doing sports and stuff after that. I don't remember growing up after that. I don't remember growing up. I feel like I just woke up here today, and I'm this age. I'm still a little kid trying to figure out how to navigate life, and now I got 2 kids and a wife and a job and a drinking problem. Yeah, all of these things.
All right, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you are not from Cincinnati, so it would be inappropriate for me to ask you where you went to high school.
Yes, it would.
Where are you from?
I am from Detroit, Michigan, and the southeast Michigan area as of late. But yeah, so originally born in Detroit, and we lived there in Ann Arbor, and we lived there for a few years, then moved to Detroit. And my parents split, and then I went to high school at Bedford High School in Temperance, Michigan, which is a pitching wedge from Toledo. Like, as soon as you go across the border, you would be in my school district.
Okay.
From Toledo, so a northern Toledo suburb, essentially. And it was a unique experience, kind of moving around a little bit, but still staying in the same. I didn't move more than a mile away from I-75 until I was 26. Yeah, and then we moved to Houston. So that was it. Yeah, that was
I-75. That's
yeah.
It goes.
There's a lot of
from
different
Michigan to Florida
to Key West. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a good trip to travel I-75 top to bottom.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know. I don't think. Now that I think about it, I don't think it would be. I think by the time you got to like Dayton, Ohio, if you started at the north end, by the time you got to Dayton, you'd be like, "This is dumb. Why are we doing this?" Like, there's got to be a better road than this one because every exit has the same like 7 things. For most of it.
Yeah.
For sure. Although
So
it gets interesting when you get a little farther south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florida is interesting.
Yeah, interesting is a fun word.
Yeah.
Have you ever done the Florida Man Challenge? Have you done it?
I've heard of it. You just Google Florida Man.
And your birthday.
And your birthday.
And you get a news article.
Yeah.
And it's always Florida Man, wrestles an alligator in front of an elementary school or something like that. Some off-the-wall Florida crime.
Yeah, they have these sunshine laws, they call it.
I love that.
If everywhere had that, it would be very eye-opening, I'm sure.
It doesn't seem to be helping things in Florida. Like, it's not slowing these guys down. We should probably do the Florida Woman Challenge. Caroline needs to do the Florida Woman Challenge, and Julia.
Okay.
I think we'll put that on them to do it.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
can ask them.
Yeah, for sure.
So you moved to Texas.
We did. Yeah, we moved to Texas in 2008 after my wife graduated from Bowling Green.
Okay.
During kind of the recession. She's a teacher, so she needed to go to a big city to find a job. There weren't really suburban teaching jobs back then, so that's how we ended up in Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Texas is an interesting state. I've never been. But how is that transition from the Midwest to deep Texas?
And we were deep. We were in Houston too, so like deep Texas. It was. I don't know. It was fine. I've never really struggled with because I've always been in like the service industry, so it's always seemed like anywhere I would go, the mat is kind of rolled out for me. People willing to do the kind of work that I do, especially like in the maturity level that I try and do it with. Regardless of what you hear on the podcast. But going down there it was eye-opening, right? The service model. The fact that they sell more Dos Equis Lager down there than Dos Equis Amber blew my mind. Because up here I feel like nobody drinks the green bottles. Everybody drinks the brown bottles. And that's just my like experience with Chewies. But yeah. But the Houston's a weird like liberal oasis in a very conservative, like
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
out, obviously a very conservative state and region of the country. So it was interesting to see some of the struggles that they have kind of dealing with that sort of culture difference from their surroundings. But no, I mean, Houston was awesome, except for the fact that it is as big as you think any other city is. Houston is huge.
Yeah.
It goes forever, and it has the most beautifully maintained and designed freeway system for you to park on. You never move. Like, the highways are just completely locked up, and they are, like,
Oh, my God.
they're impeccably designed. And there's no geographical challenges. There's no rivers. There's no mountains. There's no ocean. There's not even hills. There's, like, barely inclines in Houston. It is super flat, and they have this racetrack of like 3 loops around the city. Like we have 275 here. They've got 3 of those.
3?
And none of them go anywhere. Like they just get all kinds of backed up. So I was happy to leave when we did.
Okay.
The grind of living in an area that big and that busy was like more than I wanted to deal with, especially having grown up in a very urban environment too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good barbecue.
Rudy's Barbecue. Get off the plane, get in an Uber, and go to Rudy's. It is amazing. It's a gas station, right? Like it's almost like our UDFs here, but instead of an ice cream counter, they have like barbecue and Lone Star beer, and you can just like grab them while you're waiting in line. Very similar to like the city barbecue format, but with like a full service gas station and unbelievable barbecue. Rudy's is so good, and there's a super small little trailer called the Curly Tail. It wasn't Curly Tail. Twisted Tail Barbecue is this little trailer right off of Rayford Sawdust in the Woodlands, Texas, that had like but they were sold out by like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, as much as they could make, gone by 2. Like they were just like, just go to the bank and cash a check, and then start another fire so they could get ready for the next day. It's crazy.
Day. Oh my God.
Yeah. The amazing barbecue, amazing Mexican food, amazing Greek food for some reason.
Greek.
Yeah, like
Okay.
there's a place called Nico's in Montrose down there. They serve these potatoes, and they have so much butter on them that they're like neon yellow. They're impossible. They're
Oh my
so
God.
good, right? With a giant gyro and like feta cheese and hummus everywhere. So good. So good.
Okay. So what brought you to... Oh, well, before we get there, do you need a refill?
Yeah, it's probably timing.
Okay. Let's pause.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back. All right. We are back
From the bar.
from the bar. What did you get, Chris?
I got the Tuk Tuk. Is a Japanese rice lager from our friends up at Seventh Sun in Columbus.
Okay.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I poke fun at rice beer because that is what big beer does typically. So this is probably done right?
This is very, very. It's essentially like a cream ale would be made with rice or something like that, rice or corn. No, this is just the same kind of style, but lagered, right? It's really good.
Okay.
It's really good.
And I got on the slow pour. I don't even know. It's
The Rothaus Pils.
Rothaus Pils. I've never had this before.
That came off a boat. Right? Like that wasn't brewed here. That came in a keg
It's from Germany.
boat
It's
to
from
get here. It's a beautiful color.
It's a beautiful. It's so that head that I got from the slow pour. It reminded me of like going down the Hofbrauhaus and getting that liter Stein with the 3-inch foam head.
Yep. It's got to be when you've got that much. That's the slow pour is a very unique experience when you would drink that. To have that side by side, which would be an absurd way to run your draft system. But if you could have that on a regular tap and then in a slow pour next to it, I would be curious to know like how much more vibrant the experience is through the slow pour, because they say it opens up more of the aromas and more of the aromatics. Excuse me, Brian Fisher, kill me. Aromatics and stuff, and from the hops and the malts and all that stuff. So, how is it?
Oh, it's delicious.
I'm sure it's so good.
It's very German. Reminds me of when I was over there. Just drinking a Pils.
Yep.
I mean that they don't have the variety that we have.
No.
They
of styles, right?
Of styles, yeah. You just go to a bar and you say Pils, Heffa, Dunkel. Yeah. Sometimes they have a Radler, like when I was 16 and I went over there.
Yeah.
That's what I drank.
Drinking the Radlers.
The Radlers, yeah. And now we call those shandies over here.
Yeah.
And they've Light and Kugel made those popular.
Oh, yeah, they brought it to the masses for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I had that back in 2006 and in Germany.
Yeah.
At random festivals. And fun fact about Germany, they don't do plastic. Like if you go to a festival.
Yeah.
We went to a festival called Bretzelfest, which is Pretzel Fest, basically.
Sure. I'm down for that. That sounds great.
It's a festival, in a field or whatever. They had a truck, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a food truck, but bigger, kind of like a bar, but with 4 sides or whatever, with beer in the middle, and they had glass. So they don't give you plastic cups.
I can't even imagine the logistics that go into running a festival. Just thinking about, we were at the place I don't work at. We were at the St. Margaret of York Festival on the weekend, but last weekend. And we went through 22 kegs. So 22 times 120 pints worth of glass, plus all the Bud Light that they pour, right? Like those Catholic festivals murder Bud Light. So like,
they do.
I don't, in Shock Top, they were going through Shock Top and Bud Light like crazy. So we went through 22 half barrels of beer and seltzer, excuse me. I can't imagine logistics going to maintaining that much glassware.
Well, I'm sure this festival was a lot smaller than that.
I don't know.
It was a small town, middle of nowhere, Germany.
Okay.
I mean, Germany is made up of small towns,
Sure.
and when we went there, that's where we went.
Sure.
Small towns. So maybe that was, the reason.
I don't know. All the imagery you see from like Oktoberfest proper, though, are like the big steins. You just bring your own?
I don't know. You mean the girls deliver them, right?
We better go and find out. All right, we'll be back.
But yeah, you pay your deposit so you don't steal it. Americans would steal the glass.
I can vouch for that as someone who operates tap rooms. They'll, if it's not bolted down, they'll bring a grinder. If you bolted your glassware down, they would steal it. Like they would steal the table. If you secure the glassware to the table, they would steal the table.
Yeah. So we left off with you in Texas.
Yes.
And how did you get to Cincinnati?
So I met my wife when we at Bowling Green, which is in northwest Ohio, and me being from like southeast Michigan, and then she is from a small town near here called Cincinnati. So when we had our first daughter while we lived in Texas, and when we decided we were going to move back here, me being from Michigan and her being from Cincinnati, we compromised, and we live in Cincinnati. Yep,
that's the way it works.
That's the way we compromise. No, we ended up here. I was working with Chewy's, and they had just opened a couple stores up this way, so the opportunity was here for me. And she's a school teacher, so it's odd now. She can kind of go anywhere she wants to, but it used to not be like that, right? It used to be kind of hard to get teaching jobs. Now she can walk into anywhere and kick the door down and teach. But yeah, so she didn't get a job that summer. We moved back until 2 days before school started. We were really sweating it out.
Oh my God!
Really sweating it out. That was 2000. It would have been 2015 school year, 2015-16. So yeah, we've been here about 6 years. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that's how we ended up here. She's a graduate of Lakota East. She went to high school at Lakota East.
Okay.
Yeah, for anybody who's asking, our kids will go to Lakota West. So we didn't move quite that close to where she grew up, but
Lakota that's a big school.
It's a huge school.
I forget which one, but I think that's a good school, right?
Yeah.
Are they both good schools?
They're both good schools. Yeah.
Okay.
The Lakota West is a little more just by the way that Westchester and Liberty Township are kind of split. Lakota West is a little more diverse, right? It's a little less high income, a little more like Lakota East is like some of those neighborhoods up there are ridiculous. I mean, they're huge, from a home value standpoint. So Lakota West is a little more where we wanted our kids because we were living in Mason.
Yeah.
And what we didn't want was our kids. We wanted our kids to get the best education possible, obviously, but we didn't want them. Like there were some kids that we knew kind of coming out of high school and going into college who like hadn't been really around people who didn't look like them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there were kids from, I'm gonna call out some towns, like kids from like Dublin, Ohio, right? Like I'm in Columbus who like are like, whoa, like you lived near here? Like, yeah, like it's not far. Which is crazy. So we wanted a good school, but we also didn't want anything hyper competitive. I don't care if my kids don't like school. I don't want them to like feel like they're tied to whatever they want to do in school. I want them to be. That does sound weird, but like if they follow the path I did, right, and they get in the service industry and they turn out to be great bartenders, I'd love for my kids to be great bartenders and be exposed to some of the things that I was. If they could, be able to work in some of the places that I've worked and be able to experience and see some of the things that I've seen through the travels that come with what I do. It's been an amazing life to get to this point. Yeah. Weirdly enough, for me to like recommend that my kids don't go to college.
Well, college isn't for everyone. I think Marco, he's a fellow podcaster in the Cincinnati world. And we are actually in his turf. If
we are like 2 feet away from his studio, for sure. It's my friend Clint. What's up, man? How are you? We are absolutely in his. We're shitting in his yard.
A little bit. He might actually show up.
He probably will.
But he brought up in a recent episode of Truth, Beer, and Consequences, he brought up Mike Rowe. And Mike Rowe is a big advocate for trade school.
Yeah.
And the trades, which is a little different from like the service industry, but it's a similar thing, right? You don't necessarily need a degree for retail or service or hospitality or whatever you want to call it. It's an industry where you could, if you know your stuff, you could make good money with it.
Name your price at this point too, because they're desperate for people that with that knowledge, the technical knowledge. It's one of those things like you don't need to whatever to be a plumber. Like there's a lot of technical knowledge that comes in to the way those things work, especially like electricians and HVAC. I've thought about going to get my like plumbing certificate and my HVAC certificate just to help me with stuff around the house. Yeah. Right? Like the money I would save if I could just, fit these 2 pipes together without having to call somebody.
Yeah. I mean, he hit Mike Rowe. I listened to his podcast. It's called The Way I Heard It. And he advocates for these things. And the way he says it, we're going to be in trouble in, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
When all these plumbers retire and then there's nobody to come in behind plunge your toilet.
Yeah.
Like it's a serious problem.
Yeah. There's not a pipeline of these types of jobs because everyone is pushing the, college. Yeah. And in college, I went to college, I'm not knocking college, but, it's not for everyone.
No, it's definitely not.
So when my kids grow up, which will hopefully be never, but
there's also that, right?
That's not realistic, right? Yeah. I'm going to shout out, college if you want, but there's also trade,
I think it's important as a parent to realize Like, you know your kid is going to be a pro baseball player, or at least have a shot at it very early. Or you know your kid is going to have a great shot at athletic career or something down those lines very, very, very early. Earlier than a lot of people realize, right? Like, it's not something that just happens. Like, it's not gonna when they're a junior in high school. Like, the decision's already been made.
Yeah.
When you get to that point. I think there's some of that with college. Like, I wish my mom had seen me as a student and been like, the college is not the way this needs to go. Not that I would change anything about the way that I went about my life and have gotten to where I am, because I'm very proud of how hard I worked to get to where I am. But I wish that instead of pushing me toward college, somebody would be like, look, you hate this.
Right.
Everything about school. Like, the only reason you're here is because of baseball and wrestling. There's no reason for you to be here at all. It would have been a great, for someone in my life to have given me the micro speech and been like, look, man, this stuff's not for you. Like, do something else. Right. And maybe I would end up where I am now anyway, but I wouldn't have had some of the struggles that I had, like trying to figure out where I belonged for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
And debt. I mean,
debt.
The debt that these kids come out with.
Crippling.
I know.
Debt.
It's awful.
It's unbelievable.
They ruined a generation of kids.
With, like, saddled them with a mortgage that
predatory interest rates
that prevents them from getting a real mortgage, right? For a degree in the humanities, right?
Or liberal arts
or
ballet, well, I'm actually, ballet might be legit, but
yeah, right. Some of these ones, I'm like, you got a degree in what? Well, now what? Grad school. I'm like, that's cost. Now here's more money, right?
I know. Yeah. Some people are professional students.
That's true too.
And then they just end up teaching.
Yep. You're absolutely right. Teaching other professional students.
And that's what I didn't want to do. So
No.
I went to UC, and I saw the cost. I could have lived on campus. Could have gotten the meal plan. It was 15 minutes from my house.
Sure.
My parents' house, rather. I come from a very frugal family, just with the background and everything. We don't have to get into that, but
yeah.
I was like, I can't. That's a lot of money to live on campus. I'm gonna commute
For 15 minutes too, right? Like, that's You could have taken a limo back and forth to school every day.
Yeah.
For like what it would have cost to live on campus.
And still, I mean, I paid for parking. That was
Yeah.
ridiculous. Paid for books. I mean, kids don't pay for books now, or maybe they do. And
They do. You have to pay to rent the books digitally now.
That's
Think
it's a different
think
world.
that through.
It's a different world.
And it's not much cheaper than like buying a physical copy.
And I could sell the book back. So that was the game, right?
Yeah.
You sell your textbooks back
It was like college funded GameStop, where you'd be like, oh, I have all these books. This is worth, $400, and you get there, and he's like $850, right? Yeah, it's exactly the same format as GameStop. Like, no, this is the worst racket ever is college textbooks. It's extortion.
It is. So I went to UC, I went to marketing, but I heavily considered English as my degree. And I'm like, what am I going to do with that? My passion is writing, like creative writing.
Sure.
And then it kind of grew into like professional marketing writing, which is kind of what I do now, but not really. So my mom kind of steered me in the direction of marketing because her background is that she works at P&G, and she's seen, marketing people. She works with marketing people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of also just, I thought about it. I'm like, I looked at the classes that I would have had to take. I'm like, I don't know that Shakespeare is going to help me.
There's no,
like,
I think it's important to realize that the artistic value is there, but other than that, like, what is studying it going to get anywhere? I don't know. I see the memes now too. Like it's like, good thing they made me read this instead of how to,
Yeah, there was an entire required class about Shakespeare. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I want. in my education. And then I did the marketing, and I had to take accounting. I'm horrible at math. Accounting's fake math anyway, but I had to take calculus, business calculus.
Sure.
So not regular, like Caroline's a mechanical engineer. She had to take. Like,
her calculus is way different.
Oh, yeah. So I had to take business calculus. Yeah. And, it was awful.
Do you use it?
No.
None of it.
No.
Not even a little bit.
I had to take an English 101, 102, and then
Sure.
An intermediary English class. I excelled at that. It stressed me the hell out because in my other classes, you had test 1, test 2, test 3 with homework, and you knew where you stood in the class. Like week 10, because back then it was quarters, or it was 10 weeks in a quarter.
Yeah.
Week 8, you knew you had a B in the class.
Yeah.
In the English classes, you had no idea because it was a portfolio, and he graded it at the end.
That's brutal.
I know.
Brutal.
And I'm good at English. Like, it was essays and stuff. You had 5 essays that you worked on. You edited the essays. And he gave you kind of, there was no tests, right?
Yeah.
So it stressed me out. That was the first time I've ever slept walk.
Really?
Like, I was so stressed out.
Sure.
I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I almost took a shower.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only time I've ever done that.
Twice.
I was a freshman.
Twice after Evie was born.
Yeah.
I was, when Evie was born, we were living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Houston. We'd just signed an 18-month lease and found out like a month in that Britt was pregnant. So for the first 6 months of Evie's life, she lived in a closet because we didn't have another bedroom. There wasn't enough room in like our bedroom for a pack and play that she slept in. So she slept like literally like we repurposed the walk-in closet from this bougie ass apartment that we had that we could barely afford to house the baby. But during that time, there was one moment where I was standing there and I was like rooting around like in the blankets on the bed, the sheet and the comforter. And Britt's like, do you remember it? I remember vividly, like watching myself, or like as it's portrayed back to me, like I can see myself, and I remember being like, Britt was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm looking for the baby." Like I had lost her in the sheets, and she's like asleep in the pack and play, right? And then there was one other time where I was standing at the countertop in the kitchen, which you could literally walk to from the bedroom, like right out the hallway, as though we were walking to that table. And I was just standing there, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm making a bottle." She's like, "No, you're not doing anything. Like, will you make a bottle?" And then I woke up, and made a bottle. I remember those items almost as if I was like an out of body experience, like watching myself do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was the water that woke me up.
Oh, so you actually got in the shower, or
Turn the water on.
Turn the water on.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was so stressed out because my English class.
Didn't know.
Yeah, I'm a goody two shoes. Like I got decent grades. I wasn't an A+ student, but I had like a 87% average or whatever.
That's crazy. That's great. But that's a. I've had those dreams like about work, right? Like you go from like a long Cinco de Mayo shift in Houston, right? And where you're just getting hammered the whole time, and then you like all you hear is like the printer, right, from the ticket printer when you're like in the well, or like and those kind of dreams. But I've never. That's the only time I've ever gotten out of bed and been like, I don't know what's going on. So that's interesting that at grades, I'd never stressed about my grades. Partially because like when you know they're going to be bad, there's like whatever. that was my lifestyle.
So let's talk about your family, because
Okay.
you live in Cincinnati.
Yes.
You have 2 daughters.
Yes, monsters.
This was interesting. I re-listened to, because I was on your show.
Yeah.
Decently.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, in March.
Yeah.
Episode 75.
Is it March? Was it that long ago?
Episode 75.
Oh my God, that feels like yesterday. Oh my
Time
God.
is flying, man. It's
It
almost
really
September.
is. Anyway, all right, so yeah.
And you mentioned that your oldest daughter at the time, was testing for her black belt.
Yes.
So how did she get into that? What kind of martial arts is she in?
So she is now, as of 2 weeks ago, officially a black belt in Taekwondo.
Taekwondo.
Which is
she's 9 years old.
She is 9 years old. Yes, she is a Taekwondo is obviously a very child-friendly martial arts discipline, but she is a savant. I mean, she just took to it. So, and she also does. She's very good at gymnastics too, which the flexibility and the body control that comes along with one really helps the other. But yeah, she got into that. We actually went to a pumpkin festival in Westchester, and they had a booth there, and you spun the wheel and you got a free trial class.
Okay.
And she was 4.
She was 4 years old when she started this.
When she started it. She might have been close to 5. It might have been right after she turned 5. Because she's been doing it for 4. Yeah, so she would have been just turned 5 and it was in the spring. No, it was before she turned 5. She was 4. It was in October before she turned 5. So she goes to the trial class and she loved it. She loved it. She liked the yelling. There's tons of yelling that comes along with it and screaming and hollering. So she did really, really good early in it, and it built, and you could see it in her confidence too, which is one of the things that I really liked about it, about getting her. She's always been a little anxious, and the Taekwondo has really helped kind of quell some of that.
Okay.
So she's done incredibly well with that. So yeah, she went through what's called the Little Tiger program, which is the color belts, but they're all like a stripe, white with a stripe. And then when she turned 5, or when she turned 6, she got into the regular classes, and just excelled and really kind of sunk all the way into it, immersed herself in it, where she's studying at home and she's practicing all of her her forms that she has to do, and all the terminology they have to know. They make them learn, a lot of Korean words so that they can. Eventually, I think the idea is to cultivate new Taekwondo teachers to continue the art, and obviously teach them how to fight. But yeah, so she just finished. I think when we were talking, it was about a 4 or 5 month process from when she got her last belt, which was red with 2 black stripes, so the double black tip they call it, where she had to do 2 4-hour-long seminars, both of which had a test on the part. So she had to pass both of those, then she had to pass pre-test 1, pre-test 2, and then her final test. And she really kind of squeaked by at the beginning of that program. But by the end, by her final black belt test a couple weeks ago, her moves, I mean, she was deliberate. It was I was so proud. Where they were crisp and they were fast, but they were controlled. And I'm sitting there watching, this is a different kid. I have no idea who this kid is. And then her kicks for her breaks were clean, and both of them on the first try. Her kicks are nasty.
I'm sure they are.
She's really tall and long. So she's got this tiny little torso. She has super long legs and really long arms. She'd be a great volleyball player, I think, when she gets a little older. But she is absolutely. She will kick you harder than you would look at her and think she's a problem.
Yeah,
she's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, she can take care of herself.
Is awesome. So Nori actually will start the little Tiger program here in November.
Oh no.
2, yeah. So we're gonna have 2.
You're gonna have your hands
full.
2
little badasses running around Westchester.
So you mentioned that it started with a trial program, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you just continued it, and she showed interest, and so now she's a black belt. Is that the highest?
So it's interesting because you would think, yeah, but there are degrees, right? You've heard the term second or third degree black belt term. So now she has a sword, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. So she got it's like a bamboo sword, but now they're training this level of Taekwondo that I didn't even know existed, where it's sword work and sword sparring, and so it's all the other stuff plus now it's a whole new program that they're in.
Yeah.
Where you get your degrees of black belt.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's not super uncommon for a 9-year-old to get a black belt.
She's the youngest one in her group.
Oh.
For sure. I think it is a little uncommon for her to get her black belt at this age.
Okay.
For sure. But
because you have to test into it, right?
You have to test into it.
It's not like school where you take it for a year and then you graduate.
No, you have to. Yeah, you have to test into it, right? So she's never missed a belt, right? When it's time for her to test, and they come up, so you have to attend so many classes, and you have to get each belt level has a different requirement that you have to meet. So you have to master the kick, you have to master the form, you have to master the one-step sparring for the demo part of it, and the terminology. So she's always made those on schedule to test with the next group. She's never had to do like 2 sessions at green belt or 2 sessions she's always been on time, which I think is pretty rare. Partially it is a big part of it is the commitment from my wife to getting her to classes as often as she does. So Britt, I mean, it's super close to the house, which we're thankful for. But yeah, Britt, I mean, she goes between gymnastics and Taekwondo. She goes 5 nights a week, which is a lot on a kid. And it's one of the things that we watch. Like, are we putting too much on her? But she
that early too.
Yeah, but she drives for it. Like, she like wakes up. She's like, today's Saturday. I've got gymnastics. Like, I know. And she's like, Monday. And then we do let her pick when she used to be able to pick when she could take her classes. Now that she's in the black belt classes, she can't pick, but she can pick the days. So we let her decide, like, do you want to do gymnastics and Taekwondo one day, like double up, or do you want to go separate days? We kind of let her dictate her schedule for that.
Yeah, that's intense. 5 days
It's a lot. But it's things that she loves, right? Because we did soccer, and she was ho-hum interested in that, and we did t-ball, and she was kind of ho-hum interested in that. So the stuff that she's really shown a knack to and really interested in and driven us to do more with, well, we'll obviously foster those things as much as we can, or at least as much as we can accommodate.
So yeah, 5 days a week, that's like a high schooler schedule.
It is.
For like a varsity level.
That's
crazy.
It is. She's yeah, but obviously if she ever said she wanted to pull back on it, like, we told her that she could, after she got her black belt, like, you want to take a couple weeks off of Taekwondo, like, do it. You don't have to. But then she wanted to do one black belt class, and they gave her a sword, and she's like, oh no. Right, like, I want to go.
So she's really enthusiastic about it. That's awesome.
Very, very, very enthusiastic about that. And the gymnastics. The gymnastics thing scares the hell out of me, because we go to, like, the playground. There's a playground in our neighborhood, like, up the hill, and she's doing things off of, like, the chin-up bars that are like an absolute trip to the emergency room if she doesn't do them right. And I'm like, buddy, like, please don't get hurt up here. Like, please, like, these are not mats. These are our old tires. Like, this is not gymnastics match. She's like, it's okay, I can do it. I'm like, all right.
So she does gymnastics as well.
Yeah, she does gymnastics 2 days a week right now.
Okay.
So.
Do you think she'll continue these?
As long as she continues to perform in school, right? She's always done really well in school, so she'll be in 4th grade this year. She reads a ton too, so, like, yeah, she's
I read a ton.
Yeah, she reads. She just finished the last Harry Potter book,
and
then she has the whole
4th grade.
Yeah,
Harry Potter.
She has the whole Roald Dahl catalog. Well, we told her that she couldn't watch the movies until she read the books, so she was highly motivated to read the books. And then she's burning through the Roald Dahl catalog right now. Like,
I don't know what that is.
James and the Giant Peach and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh.
He's got a whole library. That's probably 25 books that she got, I don't know, for Christmas. So she's got all of them. And some of them are really short stories. They're probably only 60 or 70 pages, and they're kids' books. But they're it's a soft cover, like, novel. She is absolutely screaming through those right now. And she's already knows, like, she wants to read the Fantastic Beasts books next. The Harry Potter ones that come after that. So
I don't think that's not a novel. That the Fantastic Beasts, it's a spin-off from a textbook.
Yeah, they're like they read like textbooks. Yeah. She's super excited.
J.K. Rowling wrote the textbook because that was their, if you read the first book, that was their it was their textbook.
Yeah.
In their first year.
Mm-hmm.
So J.K. Rowling wrote the textbook for charity.
Yep.
As like a charity thing.
Yeah. She's like, that's what I'm doing next. I'm like, all right, whatever you want, kid. My wife's like, what can we give her that's going to, like, slow her down a little bit, right? And she's like, she's too young for Hunger Games.
Oh my God, yeah. Those terrified me.
Yeah, she's too young for, some of those, but she's, like, too old or she's too advanced as far as a reader for, like, Babysitter's Club and that kind of stuff. So, and she actually read through those before she got into the Harry Potter side. She's always been a bookworm. So it's interesting when you mentioned like when you guys go on car trips, you watch the Barney thing, and other things in Game Boy and stuff like that. Like she will absolutely read the whole way to the Outer Banks we go. It's disgusting. It gives me a headache thinking about her reading like that.
Actually, that trip that you mentioned, that was what sparked my reading fire as a 10-year. Well, I was 11, I guess, about to turn 11. My birthday's in September. We went in August. No, I guess I was 11 going on 12 at that point. My mom borrowed our neighbor's first Harry Potter book, the first one, The Sorcerer's Stone, and she read it to us to try to... I was a huge Goosebumps person.
Oh, I loved the Goosebumps books.
Yeah, but they're like 90 pages. Right?
Yeah.
Harry Potter was just... It was like almost 300 pages.
The first one was... This is the shortest one, too, and it was a monster.
It's like 300 pages.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have the confidence to read that by myself.
Yeah.
But the movie was coming out that year. And my mom was like, okay, well, I'll read it to you and see if it sparks something. And it did. And I read, like, nonstop. I read the Red Wall books. It's a fantasy series.
Red Wall?
Red Wall.
Red Wall.
Yeah. So it's about a bunch of mice and critters. And it's fantasy and... it's really hard to explain, but the setting is the same, but the characters differ from each book because it's like a history.
Oh, that's cool.
So the sword is the same sword. It goes from different generation to generation, and there's stories revolved around the book, around the sword, and also the setting is the same, but the characters are different from book to book.
Yeah, it's amazing how different I think about it now. Like how different the rest of my family is for me, because I couldn't tell you the last thing that I read.
Yeah, I can't read paper book. I mean, I think college screwed me up. We talked about college before.
Sure.
I had to multitask nonstop and when I was in college. So I would be writing a paper, I would be on Facebook, I'd be watching at the time it was Lost. That was my favorite show.
Yeah.
Or whatever my favorite show was of the year. I would be watching a movie. I would be writing my paper, doing my homework. I would be doing 10 things at once, right? And I blame college on that.
That's a real... that was a time, too, when, like, media overload. Not media, but social media, and then all of a sudden you could watch TV when you wanted to with, like, on-demand stuff, which was never a thing. And then all of a sudden now there was social media, and there was... the onset of streaming music in the beginning. All of a sudden you had all of these options, and you needed to experience everything, and the only way you could do it was 2 at a time in them.
Yeah.
2 at a time in them. But I think about, like, my house. Like I'll come down the stairs or in from the garage, and, like, my wife, especially during the summer, will put away 2 novels a week. And then, like, Evie will be reading in the other chair. And, like, Nori will be sitting there with her, like, board book, like, upside down, like, looking at it, like, and I'm like, do I know you people? Like, we're not, I'm in the garage watching disc golf, like, shithousing, like, a 12-pack, and they're, like, inside reading. Like, I don't think I know, do I live here? Is this my house? I don't know.
So anymore, I can't sit down and read a physical book anymore.
No.
So I commute to Mason from the west side.
Ooh.
I used to before COVID. I work from home more these days because of gas prices. They're trying to change that, but let's not go there. So I would read, the Cincinnati Public Library. They give you audiobooks for free. Yeah. So I would read as I drive, but that's still multitasking, right?
It absolutely is. Yeah.
So I cannot sit down and physically read a book anymore because, I get so distracted. Like, I don't have time to just sit there and not doing anything. Do something else, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I feel like anyway. I mean, I wish I could. I hope maybe someday that would change.
Yeah. I'd like to think I don't have time, but then I catch myself, like, I'll just sit and watch disc golf, or I'll sit and watch cage fighting, or I'll go out and get blackout drunk with the gnome, and I'm like, well, I guess I had time, right?
Yeah.
I guess I had some time. Or Josh or Brian and Beth or whoever.
So let's talk about the service industry, because you mentioned that you work pretty heavily in the service industry.
Very much so.
I used to work at a famous pizzeria here in town.
La Grossa's?
I did, yeah. I did all kinds of things for them. I
Mhm.
made pizza, I made hoagies, I made pasta, I washed dishes. That's where I started, actually.
Sure.
And then on a random I work Sunday mornings, and it's down the street from a Catholic church. So.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, everything in Cincinnati is down the street from a Catholic church, also.
Yeah. So I work Sunday mornings. The pizza. I did the morning dishes because there was a pile of morning dishes when I came in because of all the prep work and stuff, and then there was nothing because everyone was outside. They were dirtying the dishes. But there was only one cook doing hoagies, pasta, appetizers, and then there's two cooks, and then the second cook was doing pizzas.
Sure.
And the hoagie cook got overloaded like every single Sunday, so I'm like, I'm bored. I'm just gonna help him, like on a dishwasher salary, like whatever. I'll just do it.
Yeah.
What do you need help with?
Right. Like, what can I do?
Yeah. So that's how I started cooking,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just moved up from there, and I eventually ended as a server. Horrible work.
Yes.
I commend you.
Well, I had a little bit different path. I actually started. I scooped ice cream in high school, and then I did the fast food thing a little bit. But I didn't start really in the industry that we're in now, as far as like adult beverage. I started as a bouncer at a club called Uptown Downtown in Bowling Green. So I did that for about a year and a half, and then there was a bartender vacancy and a bar back vacancy, excuse me. So I was like, I can bar back, right? So I started a bar back, and now all of a sudden I'm tipped out, right? Like I'm making like tipped money. I'm like, this is interesting, right? And I'm like leaving with cash like, every day. Ooh,
that's dangerous. Right?
Yeah, I like, especially at like 19. But it was amazing. So I started doing that, and I was like, all right, well, what is it like to bar back at this bar? What is it like? And then I finally got an opportunity to bartend, and then I got my first bartender tip out, and I was like, well, I'm never ever going back. So that's really what kind of locked me into it. Was I was making, and there were nights in Bowling Green, or weeks in Bowling Green, where I would work. I'd work 6 nights, and I would be in 4 different bars. I was kind of like a mercenary, right? Like whenever anybody would call, like I didn't.
Or a freelancer.
Yeah,
I guess that would be the term.
Yeah, I didn't go out a ton. I mean, I did, but it was always like after shift, which is like the least healthy way to go out, because it's always like grabbing a case of carryout beer from the bar you're working at and getting drunk in someone's garage. But so that was kind of where I cut my teeth, as far as doing all that stuff, and then. I fell in. I avoided the downside of a lot of that comes with the service industry, right? Like a lot of the drugs and a lot of the burnout that comes with it. Partially because I think that I knew that like I would fall in love with that. Like I have an addictive personality to whatever it is. Like that would be an issue for me. So I knew to avoid things like even like tobacco and stuff like that. Like never really got involved. So that. I just knew like this is a road. Like I see what it looks like when it happens, and I don't like it, so I'm going to avoid it. And part of that is growing up in Detroit and seeing how horrific drugs and
right.
untreated mental health can be, or self-medicated mental health, which is a lot of what that stems from. So I stayed away from all that and avoided the pitfalls of that. And because of that, I was really passionate about kind of polishing my craft, right? I would study and I would do, whiskey certifications and wine certifications and everything I could learn about the process. I learned and I did. And I kind of amassed this, put my arms around all of this knowledge and really just kind of put it to work wherever I was. So when I got hooked up with Chewy's, like I knew, it's like, okay, neat. Like I need to learn all about the tequila side of things. Like, cause tequila was just coming into its real like popularity that it's in now. So I, learned all that I could, took advantage of every opportunity that anybody would give me to train on something new. And because of that, it's led me to the craft beer world that we're in now. But also the craft spirit world that the company I work for,
is dipping into.
Is dipping into. I mean, we're all the way in.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it takes a while, right?
Yeah, it does. There's some time, but there's also some things like, we source some of the stuff that we do, and which helps us grow a little faster than. We're open about it, right? We don't hide it, but it's one of those things where like I learned so much about the business just by being part of the knowledge I've gained from being here. Eclipses everything I'd learned before, but I wouldn't have been able to apply it without the experiences that I had before this. So I love it, and if you've never bartended before or waited tables before or ever really done it, like just do it. Just go do it. If you're thinking about it and you're listening to this and you're like, I need a change of pace, go do it. Go do it. It's so much fun, and the camaraderie is real in this industry too. Like when you get with a good team, like it's good. It's good people.
Yeah. Even when I was at the pizza place, there was a camaraderie among the servers, right, and the waitresses, and we would, sometimes they would hang out. I not so much.
Sure.
In college, I only worked 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
High school, in the summer I picked up. I would do doubles on Saturdays, doubles on Sundays.
Oh man.
I know.
That's brutal.
I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would do dishes Saturday morning and then wait tables, Saturday night or whatever. Whatever I could do, right? And then I was even crazier. Between high school and in college, I worked at a packing. It's a nuts and bolts place. My dad works there. It's called the Hillman Company.
Yeah.
They do. So it's they distribute
literal nuts and bolts.
They distribute. So it's a company that distributes nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And fascinating technology, but they don't have air conditioning. But I decided to. They were desperate. My dad was like, "You should apply." $10 an hour, which was way above what I was making at the time.
Sure.
And I was like, "Sure, I'll do it during the week, and then I'll work, at the Roses, on Sunday morning. I'll keep that Sunday morning shift, and I'll pick up Saturday too. I don't even care. I was working like 7 days a week.
That's awesome.
Just trying to build up a bank account, build up experience. My friends were going out of town for college, so I didn't really have anyone to hang out with. It's hard work, man. Retail is hard work.
It is. Absolutely.
So you manage several tap rooms.
I do. Yeah, I oversee three.
You oversee the management of multiple tap rooms. So can you talk a little bit about what goes into managing that much stuff? Especially in a world where craft beer is it's like a church, right? Like on pretty much every corner, there's a brewery. Like in every neighborhood.
It's my position overseeing like the day-to-day operations of the taproom managers is strange, where I'm 90% help desk.
Okay. Right.
I really am at this point. The staffs are trained, the infrastructure is in place, and we worked really hard to get there.
You helped build that though, right?
I mean, I was the first major hire after founding. We went from 35 seats to now, between the three tap rooms, we're over 700 seats. I'm very fortunate to work for a company that has resources the way that it does too. So building the protocols and the infrastructure to help facilitate good service is like the number one thing that I can do. How can we shave ticket times? How can we give a better experience? And how can we, sometimes the difference between me getting a second pint and a third pint is like, how easily can I get to the bar, right? Because we don't do full service at any of our current locations. Now that we're going to be doing full service, there's going to be a little bit less of that. But at the bars that we currently run, like what kind of programs and resources do my bartenders need to make sure that everybody can get what they want in a timely manner? So that's probably the big one. And once you figure that out, once you solve that problem at each location, at that point things start to happen where your volume starts to build and your check average goes up, and now your bartenders make more money, and now they're motivated to even do better, right? Because now they're making good money, and it's viral that way. So making sure that we have that spark behind our bar to motivate my team to fill more glasses, and then also push. One of the biggest things I do is push our production team. Like I push them to create great beverages. from the seltzers and the ciders and the beers. I want the best of every style, but I don't want styles that aren't going to move, that aren't going to draw butts and keep butts in seats, right? So I try and steer them away from some of the more obscure stuff. Like I don't think we'll do a Schwartz beer. As good as I love a Schwartz beer,
Right.
but like if it's not something that's going to draw people in, or and part of that is knowing our demographic too, where our locations are, right? Like Schwartz beer is probably not going to play very well up here, or the one farther north. But I always try and make things. I want them to make things that are scalable. I want them to make things that are creative yet approachable. So I push them to that way, and I think our tap list reflects it. And I think our success is part of the fact that we don't chase trends like brewed IPAs and milkshake IPAs and things like that. They move, but they don't move for long. Right. Everybody wants the next one, where when you come to us, you're going to get like quality stuff that is going to be like palatable and nothing like insane, no triple dry hop, quadruple IPAs, like that kind of stuff that doesn't move. Because we want our beer fresh too. That's obviously, if you've listened to any episodes of Shift Beers, that's very important to me.
Yeah, I poke fun at that a little bit because my beer fridge is old.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a thing. There's too much good beer, especially on the IPA side of things, right? Because
I drink lagers,
yeah,
so it doesn't impact it too much.
Not the same way as some of the other styles, for sure. Yeah.
So you have a podcast. Do you want to talk about your podcast?
Let's talk about it, because one of our co-hosts just pulled into the parking lot. Oh, yeah, I'm one of the four amazingly talented people behind the drastically not talented Shift Beers podcast. If you haven't listened, it is absolutely
chaos,
and it is our way of blowing off steam so we don't end up sleepwalking. Right, so it is one of my favorite days of the week. When I look forward to it so much, when I know like today is going to be stupid, like we're going to have so much fun, and it's great. It's great. I love it. I love it's all people that I work with very, very closely.
Yeah,
and we have a great time. We have a great time with it. So,
and I can attest to that because I was on that show.
It's the most fun.
I know.
Yeah,
it's an experience for sure.
It is. Oh God. Yeah. So we just hit 90. I think we have 94 episodes recorded. I think we have 92 released. We're weirdly ahead, which is strange for us because normally we're like, shit, we have to record right now if we want to get something out this week.
Yeah. On the episode that I just listened to of us, you were like, we pick the topic the day of. We pick the beers the day of.
There are no show notes. There is a very, very brief text message conversation about like, hey, what are we doing? And the only time we ever really like plan something is when like the NA beer episode, when we're like, all right, we have to do the whole thing without laughing, right? or like we have to be as square and not Shift Beersy as we can. So that's the only planning that ever goes into the episode.
And that's the non-alcoholic beer where you acted like you were NPR.
Yes. Yes. One of my favorite episodes ever. And also, by the way, our 4th of July episode was probably the greatest one ever too, where we all brought Budweiser.
Yes.
And never once like acknowledged it at all.
So that poor dog. Thank God for your co-host Brian.
Which dog?
He saved a dog, didn't he?
Yeah, at our party on the 3rd of July, yeah. The people who we knew he was going to be scared, so we left him outside so he didn't tear up the house was the reason. Like, dude, save that dog. Yes. Yeah, I wasn't there for that. I had gone home. I had the kids at that party. So.
Yeah, so I'm the kind of person who watches, God, what is that? What is that Keanu Reeves movie with the dog?
Oh, my gosh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can only see John Wick now. Or Neo.
No, it's John Wick. John Wick.
Yeah, it is John Wick, yeah. Yes.
Because of a fucking dog.
Exactly. It's the whole...
my friends, they're big movie buffs. They're like, you should watch this movie, you guys. I'm like, dude, the dog dies. It's a puppy.
Like early.
Spoilers.
Yeah, if you hadn't seen it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a...
he revenges that dog quite a bit.
He, I don't remember why I brought up John Wick today in our staff meeting. I don't remember.
There's one more segment
Let's do it.
to go through. It's a very short segment. We call it Joe's Dad Joke of the Week.
Can't wait.
And are you ready for this week's dad joke?
Yes.
It's brewing related.
Oh, excellent.
So why are kangaroos good at brewing beer?
I don't know. It's something to do with hops. What is it?
Yeah, exactly. They have hops.
They have hops. Yes, I love it.
All right.
That's so terrible.
So that does it for this week's show. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Craft Parenting Podcast. You can also get a hold of us via email, which is craftparentingpodcast@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. Make sure to share the show. It really helps our show grow. And if you would like to send us stuff, such as fan mail, craft supplies, or sanity, we need a lot of sanity
Yes.
as parents.
Yes.
We have a P.O. box, and all this information is available on our website, which is www.craftparentingpodcast.com. And that's where we post the show notes, plus we write blogs. And Chris, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Joe, thank you so much. This was super fun.
Yeah.
We should hang out more often.
We should.
Yes.
And one more time, where can people find you and your podcast?
You can find us at Shift Beers on Instagram and the Twitter and all the shiftbee.rs.com. Call the drunk line, like Joe and Caroline did a couple of weeks ago. And if you haven't listened to an episode of Shift Beers, I don't remember which episode number it is, but it's one of the greatest phone calls we've ever received ever. Because I think there was about 1/3 of an eye open between the two of them when they called.
Well, I mean, we just recorded a podcast,
Yeah.
and we were tired. I go to bed very, very early these days.
We're
And
shit housed.
I know. And we were not drunk,
Yes.
to be fair. We did drink a lot of beer, but
Yeah.
I mean, we shared a bunch
That's
of
good.
cans.
That's good.
So yeah, thank you. Make
Thank
sure
you.
to follow Chris and Shift Beers, and it is not a kids show. So,
No, it's definitely not one for the kids.
so beware.
Yeah, that is adult time.
And with that, I'm Joe.
And I'm Chris.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Craft Parenting Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Welcome to Shift Beers. That's what that was.
All right.